Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Mother's Day, however you end up celebrating that particular holiday. Hope you make something good out of it. We are going to continue on with our rookie deep dives, and today we are going to start on our day 3 selections. So now we're getting into the territory of guys who have significantly less upside or a significantly lower floor, or in some cases both. But that doesn't mean that you can't look at these players, see what they did in college, and try to come to some amount of understanding of what they might be able to offer at the NFL level, and maybe even make some optimistic predictions about it. So, just because we've gotten to day 3 now doesn't make these picks any less fantastic and any less high potential. So let's start with the first pick of day 3. Early in the 4th round, we picked up a cornerback who I had evaluated before the draft and already spoken about quite a bit. There were some reasons that I thought were going to keep him away from Seattle specifically, but I did get the sense he was going to be a good player. I'm talking about Coby Bryant, 4th round, 109th overall pick. So, this was a guy who I looked at months and months and months ago during the season as a potential future Seahawk target. And as time went on and the more I looked into him, the less appealing I found him. However, that wasn't because of anything I saw with him that I didn't like. That was just me assuming what Pete Carroll might be looking for in a cornerback. Clearly, we are in a different era of Seahawks football because Carroll presumably knows about these weaknesses, or I don't know if I should even call them weaknesses, but aspects of Coby Bryant's ability and his game and his build, but he drafted him anyway, which is really interesting. So let's talk about Coby Bryant, the player, what we can expect from him. I will say it up front. I think that at the very least, Coby Bryant will be very good depth as an outside corner at the NFL level. He's going to be very good depth. Can he ascend beyond that? I think he has a great chance at that as well. But I don't see this guy being completely useless at the NFL level. So we're starting out at a pretty good spot. Cincinnati Bearcat, and the Bearcats have had a really good defense for the last several years. Coby has been part of some defenses that have been among the best in the nation. He's 23, so a little bit on the older side, but that comes with a big positive in his corner, which we'll get to in a second here. But he's 23. Given the fact that he spent so much time in college football and given the fact that he was part of that COVID class, it makes sense. His measurables are pretty good. His 6'1" puts him in the 90th percentile among all cornerbacks, although that does include nickel corners. So in terms of outside corners, he's probably better than average still, but not 90th percentile. In terms of weight, he's right near the middle, 52nd percentile, 193 pounds. So lanky, long. You guys know the prototype by now. But when I say long, I mean his body, not his arms. His arms are actually quite short. 30.6 inches puts him in the 22nd percentile. And by the way, that includes nickel corners. So his arms are very short by any standards, much less the typical Pete Carroll standards. So this is what I mean. When I saw how short his arms were, my first thought was Carroll's not going to have a lot of interest. But we've moved beyond that, clearly. DJ Reed kind of introduced the idea. Trey Brown last year has brought it further along, and now we're clearly at the point now where we feel like arm length is not an end-all be-all the way it was. This guy, his arms are going to be among the shortest in the league with outside corners in all likelihood, and we still drafted him. His hand size is quite good, 9.4 inches, 69th percentile. His 10-yard split was okay, 1.54, 57th percentile. His 40 time was not very good, 4.54 put him in the 28th percentile. However, he did better both of these times at his pro day. I believe his 40 time was more like 4.47 or something, which would put him closer to the median probably for cornerbacks that have gone through the combine. So he's not as slow as this 40 time indicates. He just ran a bad 40, I think. So I think you're looking at somebody who's more around average in terms of his speed rather than below average. And his bench press was pretty good for a corner, although his shorter arms do help with that. 73rd percentile at 17 bench press reps. So the measurables are a mixed bag. Again, it's important to note that he was faster than his combine indicated. But you are still talking about a guy who has very short hands, a guy with average speed. There are some things that you're going to have to work to get past if you're going to get the most out of Coby Bryant. But what makes him good? The number one thing that sticks to me about Coby Bryant after really looking at his career and evaluating what he can do, I watched pretty much all of the Notre Dame game, just trying to keep an eye on specifically Coby to get an idea of what he offered to the table. That was obviously one of the bigger games that the Bearcats appeared in over the last several years. But really, the thing that stands out about Coby is his experience level. So 2017, he played in all 12 games for the Bearcats. Now, he only played a little bit of defense, mostly special teams. He had 4 tackles on the season, to give you an idea of how little he was used. 2 in one game against Miami of Ohio. That was his best game, but all he had in 12 games were 4 tackles. So he didn't play very much. I'm not, throw that one out there. But 2018 on, let's count him up here. So 2018, he played in all 13 games, starting 12 at cornerback, including 9 with a cast on his hand. So he played through an injury for most of the season, so he's a gamer. Tough guy. He made 33 tackles, 30 of them were solo, so a lot of solo tackles. Led the team with 9 PBUs, or pass breakups. 8 tackles in one game against Virginia Tech. Had 4 tackles, 3 PBUs, and 2 interceptions against Temple in one game. So those 2 games, Vatek and Temple, were the 2 best games that he played. And he ultimately was a significant part of a defense that ranked number 9th in the nation in defense, in scoring defense. Now, the only ranked opponent that Coby played against that year was UCF. UCF was, I can't remember exactly where they finished, but they were ranked. Everyone else they played was weak. But Cincinnati obviously had a very good defense, and they had a very successful season, and Coby was a part of that. All right, so now we're moving on to 2019. He started 14 games, so now he's a full-time player. Played in 14 games for the 2019 Bearcats, 54 tackles, which was 5th on the team, 8 pass breakups. He had 8 tackles and 3 pass breakups against ECU. That was his best game of the year. And the Cincinnati defense was 24th in football, 24th in college football. And unlike the previous year, they actually played several good teams. Ohio State, UCF, and they played Memphis twice. So he actually got some experience against really good teams. Now, moving on to 2020, this was the year that COVID took a little bit away from him, right? Now, it did allow him to come back for an extra season, but he did lose a couple games to that, I think. Not as many as teams in like the Pac-12, but let's see how he develops. So he still managed to start in 10 games. He had 35 tackles in those 10 games, 31 of them solo, so not a lot of pile jumping. He had 11 passes defense, which was first in the conference, the ACC. He had 4 interceptions, which was first on the team. And the Bearcats were the number 8 scoring defense in all of college football. Again, you have to bring up the level of competition. The only really good team they played that year was Georgia. But nevertheless, Coby Bryant did make all ACC first team this year on the back of his overall performance, which is still very impressive and still very notable. So I think you guys are kind of starting to understand what I'm really looking at here. This is a guy who's started 12 games, started 14 games, started 10 games, 36 starts, and then he had another 14 starts in 2021. So we are talking about a guy with 50 career starts at cornerback in college football. 50. 5-0. You don't find that very often. You don't. Most guys who are good enough to start that many games that early in their career declare. This guy did not. He wanted to maximize his college experience. And what did he do in his final year? He started 14 games, 11 PBUs, which was third in the conference, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, so he was involved in creating turnovers. He had some very good games. He had 7 tackles and 3 PBUs against Notre Dame. Like I said, I watched pretty much all the tape on that game just yesterday and today. He was the team captain, so he was a leader. And Cincinnati had one of the best defenses in college football, number 5. And they actually did get to play some pretty good teams. Notre Dame, Houston, and Alabama all ended the season ranked. And this was the year he really got his name out there. He won the Jim Thorpe Award for, I believe, best defensive back in the country, which doesn't go to just scrubs every year. We've had some very impressive Jim Thorpe winners over the years. He made the Team of the Week for the PFF College National Team once. He was Player of the Week for the Lott Trophy Impact Award. He made the All-ACC First Team again. He made the All-American First Team according to the AFCA and the WCFF as well. So, we are talking about a guy here who built a very impressive career, capped it off with overall probably his best season, most impressive season. Over his career, like I said, 50 starts, 170 tackles, 5 for loss, 9 interceptions, 35 passes defensed, and 4 forced fumbles. So the dude built an incredible career in a consistently great defense. And by the way, Sauce Gardner has even said he didn't need to travel with top receivers because of Coby Bryant. But that's what he did. Let's talk about how he does it, what he brings to the table on a football field. So, like I said, the main thing about this guy is his experience. It's made him a very smart player. His football IQ is really strong. He's a good leader. He was the leader of that defense, even over guys like Sauce Gardner, Darian Beavers, Cook, the safety. They had some real good players on that defense, but he was probably their defensive leader. He was named team captain for a reason. His size is good enough to play as an outside corner. He's got fast and accurate reactions to what receivers do. He's good at reading and reacting. He's got solid ball skills. He made a lot of plays on the ball in his time at college. And he got a lot of experience making plays on the ball because he's playing as a number 2 corner across from maybe the best corner in college football, Sauce Gardner. You're going to see more action when Sauce Gardner's on the other side. So he had to work hard, and for the most part, he held up excellently. He plays with good anticipation, has a good idea of where the play is going and where he needs to be. He's going to have great upside in zone schemes. When you see, underneath routes in front of him, he's great at breaking on them as soon as the pass is out and making a play on the ball. He's great at reading his zones, understanding where he needs to be, that kind of stuff. Awesome work. I watched him, like I said, in the Fighting Irish game, and he just has a good understanding of where he needs to be in order to make a play on the ball or at least disrupt the point of the catch. He's got a good understanding of the routes that receivers run and has good anticipation on where the route is going. He also, despite his relatively short arms, can disrupt the catch point without drawing a flag really well. He works hard in run support. He works hard as a tackler. He's got good enough feet to hang with receivers in man. So this is a guy who you look at and you go, okay, he's going to be great in zone, but he's also capable in man. And if we're going to run a mix this year, that's going to be important. He's also pretty good at pressing at the line of scrimmage. He's got a good jam. He's got a smooth back pedal when he's, when he's initially in his coverage against receivers or dropping back into his zone. He's highly competitive, always giving 100%, always giving maximum effort. There's also some versatility here, by the way. He did play a little bit of safety and a little bit of nickel at college in Cincinnati. A little bit. I'm not going crazy with it. I don't think he's fast enough to be a great NFL nickel, but he does have some versatility. It can only help. It's not going to hurt. So there's a lot to like about Coby Bryant, the player. A lot of stuff I saw that impressed me when I watched the tape. So, some things to concern yourself on with him. If you try to put him in man defense against a speedy receiver, the Tyreek Hills of the world, the maybe even the Jamar Chases of the world, the guys who are just speedsters, he's going to have some issues. At the end of the day, he's running a 4.4 to 4.5 40. And at the combine, he couldn't even do that. Now, I think that was probably just a bad 40, but he's still not that fast. If you try to play him in man against a guy with top flight speed, it's going to be an issue. His tackling form is shoddy. It needs work. He's somebody who kind of lunges, grabs at ankles. He doesn't square up as well as you would like. He's willing to be a good tackler, but as of right now, I don't think that he is. He needs to get better at that. I do think that his shorter arms will present challenges against NFL level receivers. We gotta remember here that over his college career, where he did make 50 starts, he only played how many ranked teams? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So less than 20% of his games were against ranked teams. And honestly, a lot of his games were against teams that had no business being on the field at Cincinnati. Teams like not even a bad Division I team. They play a lot of games against Division II teams that most of us have never even heard of, or if we have heard of it, we don't think anything of them. So I think NFL level receivers will present some challenges. Sometimes he works so hard to protect against getting beat deep because he knows his speed is not good, that he will give up easy short and even intermediate receptions because he's trying to protect against the deep ball. So maybe you could call it a little bit of Trey Flowers, right? Trey Flowers was kind of like that. Didn't want to get beat deep, knew he was going to get beat deep, so he gave up everything short. I think that it would be fair to say that Coby's ceiling in the NFL, in terms of his personal ability, would be a number 2 corner. I think this guy has a high floor, but I don't think he has a really high ceiling. Maybe he could be Byron Maxwell level. That would be maybe the best case scenario. Maybe he'll be somewhere more along the lines of what we were hoping we were going to get when we traded for Quentin Dunbar. Maybe he could be... I just don't see a superstar here. I see a player who's going to be good, who is going to be either a solid number 2 or a really great first man off the bench at outside corner. I just don't see the superstar potential because of the lack of speed, because of the shorter arms. I think he's a very safe player. I expect to see him make rookie year contributions, but I'm not expecting anything over the top. And that's all I got for Coby. I think that's a pretty good rundown of him. He's kind of a simpler guy to talk about because I think the ceiling is low. I don't think this guy's ever going to be Richard Sherman, but he can be Byron Maxwell. He can be Brandon Browner. Maybe he can even be Shaquille Griffin. And, Shaq was pretending to be our number 1 corner for a little while there, I guess. All right. See you guys later. Stream on Twitch later tonight, probably. Hope to see you guys there. Go Hawks.